Hello, beach friends. If you're new here, I'm Charmin, and every week I share a brand new beachcombing video from the shores of somewhere in Florida. Now, this week I'm headed back to Fort Myers Beach, my favorite beach, to see what treasures the tide might bring. Now, recently a lot of new sand was added to the shoreline here, and I'm really curious to see how that's affecting the beachcombing conditions. Will the fresh sand cover up the shells or maybe stir up something special? Well, we're going to head out and find out together. Now, I do see a couple of turtle nests, which are always exciting. Those yellow things were turtle nests. And this looks very Wentel trappy. Wentel traps are little white shells that I love finding, and I didn't find any this time, but I did get this little fighting conch. Yes, that is a fighting conch. So that's a swell little shell. Here's a lettered olive. I have to admit, I cannot resist them. I probably have about 1 billion of them, and I just can't stop picking them up. So maybe one day, but today is not the day. Now, this bird was very interesting. I don't know what kind of bird, but it was hovering like a hummingbird, and it was trying to find its meal. Now, which is interesting compared to the black skimmer. Now, this is a different bird. You're going to see this right along the shoreline. So it's using completely different tactics to get its meal. It will skim along the water, and when it feels something, it'll kind of snatch up that fish. So that's a black skimmer. I have a feeling hopefully it's going to be a crittery kind of day, because I do love the critters. Now, there were lots of coquinas. I was having a really hard time actually filming them, but trust me, they're here. And if you're ready to see what else is out there for us today, let's go to the beach. Critter. Okay, this is a short spine sea urchin. Now, you can pick them up. I'll be very, very careful. They are very special to me. They are the animal that I felt was most affected here at the beach in Fort Myers from that Hurricane Ian. I didn't see them for it felt like years. They're finally kind of coming back. Look at how awesome. And they do pick up shells. You notice that there is a coquina there on the left. So if this critter was covered with shells, I wouldn't pick it up because then they tend to drop them. But they do collect shells. That also makes them very near and dear to my heart. And I'm just going to walk this critter out away from the swash zone so I can kind of place it down so it doesn't get rolled around too much. Okay, that's much better. All right, let's go. All right, garbage. Terrible. All right, I do take any kind of garbage I can handle off the beach. Here is a top snail, a jujube top snail. There are many different kinds of top snails. I tend to always find those jujubes. All right. What is washing around here? Oh, a nutmeg. You know, I'm not surprised. The last time I was here, it's been a little over 2 months or so. I found 80 nutmegs. So I'm not necessarily surprised. It's kind of interesting that they're still here. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what all washes up. Oh, a lightning whelk with a sinistra fulgur sinistrum. Yep, that is a lovely specimen. I see a cone. Yep. Okay, an alphabet cone. All right, it's not in perfect condition. Actually, I'm looking for one that's broken in such a way. Alphabet cones, I understand, some of them will dissolve the interior of their shell in order to make room to eat bigger stuff. And I've been hoping to find one of those cones that I can see an example of that, but not yet. All right, here's another critter, one of our snowy egrets. They tend to hang out with people who are fishing. They are smart little birds, or at least they know how to adapt. All right, here's another fighting conch. More of a sub-adult, not quite full grown. All right, now my favorite part of Fort Myers Beach is the south end of the island. So that is where we're headed. Critter! It's a fighting conch. You can see its little eyeballs. And they actually have pretty good eyesight. So I think it can see me. It's kind of reacting. And you can see its little proboscis, that black little thing, its little trunk. So I'm just going to leave it. Keep on keeping on. Marching down. So it's looking rather flat here. I don't see too many seashells around. And this pier, I'm normally crossing way to the left. There is so much more sand here. That building there, right there, way back, I don't know, maybe, okay, April 2024, there was no sand here. And this is kind of at lowish tide. And yeah, I took a little swim that day. I didn't want to, but hey, it happened. So kind of wrap my head around the fact that that building is now way up the beach. And that's what happens when you add more sand. So this, we call it the tail, even though it's the front of a lightning whelk. I was really hoping it was empty, and it's not. Now, normally I would leave it, but because there's a lot of people around, I did not want to expose this animal and just kind of leave it at low tide. So I decided to relocate it. So I'm going to bring it out into deeper water, dig a little hole, not like bury it so it's unsafe, but, you know, kind of tuck it in because there were a lot of people around. And I just was worried for the creature, so that's what I decided to do. Oh man, this is really looking flat still. Okay, so at this point I would have hoped to have seen at least a couple of seashells. It's starting to get to the area that I really, really like, but yeah, so far it appears that the shells, they're not here. I'm gonna keep moving. There's gonna be something at some point. Oh, a sand dollar. See, there's something. That is a delightful treasure, a 5-hole keyhole sand dollar. Apparently, I'm not even slowing down. I'm pretty determined, so I'm just going to keep on keeping on until I find those shells. All right, here is another live fighting conch. You can really see its proboscis there. It's 2 eyeballs and its little trunk. Wasn't doing too much of anything, so I'm going to leave that critter alone too. Wow, there is a lot of sand here. That's good. That's really good for the beach, for the buildings, kind of help protect it. I don't know how it's going to be for the shells. We're going to have to find out. Look at this little hermit crab. So we have a little hermit. I don't know what kind. I honestly think that there's just a specific species that just kind of stays quite small. I see they kind of have like the striped legs, like that little critter. We're going to see another hermit crab in a little bit, but yeah. So there's definitely critters here. And there's sand dollar. Yeah, that is a sand dollar, all right. For me, I've collected many sand dollars. So this has a little hole in it. So I'm going to leave that for somebody else. Maybe they didn't collect one yet. They can use that as a starter sand dollar. So leave that for somebody else. And continue my journey to find critters, seashells, and anything else that might pop up. Now the tide is still kind of going out, and my thinking was get down to the south end, and on my way back maybe I can shell in the water, but it's not very clear, and I frankly don't really see that many shells in there. So let's do a quick check-in. Yes, it is warm. Yeah, it's not quite dead low. It's got to go out just a little bit more. I always come, and I say this every single time I make a video, I always come at low tide. It just increases your chances of finding the good stuff, and I'll show you in a minute what I mean about that. So this is a sunray Venus clam, and you can see the periostracum. So see how it's kind of dark and like pink? Yeah, it's got that. It does have a pretty like peach color spot on the back of the shell, but you can kind of see where the periostracum is kind of flaking off. If that were to put in bleach, the whole shell would end up being pink. So I do like to bleach my sunray Venus clam. So here's a nutmeg. Okay, again, not surprising. All right, I guess they're still here. Yep, and an olive. Oh, that's a nice one. They're called lettered olives. They have the markings that look like letters on them. You're usually M's and W's. I mean, that's not very inventive. They should have said the M and W shell. Okay, so that is an Atlantic giant cockle. Obviously, it is a juvenile. It hasn't quite gotten big. Oh, I'm going to show you some good ones in a little bit. So it was hinged, and I broke the hinge when I grabbed that first one, but we'll snag the pair a little bit. A little pair of Atlantic giant cockles. Now this weird toadfish, so yes, this is a Gulf toadfish. aptly named, frankly. And again, I didn't know it at the time, so I'm not going to touch it if I don't know if it's going to sting me or poison me, or I don't know. So I'm going to grab a seashell, find something so I can try to get this critter back kind of into the water. Now, I will admit it was acting a little weird, obviously. Oh, buddy, sorry. I'm trying to kind of get you out into the water. So it was acting weird, and I always kind of wonder, like, are you sick? You know, I don't really know what's going on. Why are you trying to get onto the beach? I did look up red tide. I mean, I wasn't feeling it or anything, and there is absolutely no incidence of it anywhere in the area. So I don't know. I kind of tried to get out in the water, and I'll hope the best for it. There's another cone. Not in great shape, but it means that they're here. And so I kind of see that as a good sign. You never know. You might find a good specimen. If you find kind of a lousy one that's been hanging around for a while, you might find a good one. I have a feeling it's going to be a nutmeg. Yeah. All right, another nutmeg. Now that is just bananas. I had mentioned earlier, it was over 2 months ago that I was here and I found all those other nutmegs. That's a worm snail, a Florida worm snail. It's broken, but still has that lovely twisty shape. Oh, yeah. That's a true tulip. Just a little piece of it. Yeah. So I don't always come up with a nice shell. Sometimes it's just pieces. The water tends to make it give it like a beauty filter. Now, kitten paws, as well as jewel boxes and some other seashells, will glue themselves to other things and then filter feed. So here we do see a kitten paw, but it glued itself to a ponderous arc. So it did mistake that for some other kind of substrate. Okay, here's a slipper snail. Yep, uncommon slipper snail. All right, there is a little lightning whelk. And the Sinistrofulgur sinistrum. Anyone got that down yet? Sinistrofulgur sinistrum? Yeah, it took me a minute, but I got it. Lettered olive. I feel like that should be maybe perhaps the next one we'll learn the scientific name. But not this week. We'll just keep that as a lettered olive. Okay, here we go. That is the Phyllonotus pomum, or the apple murex. Yep, it's got a little bit of discoloration, that dark, but on a day like today, I think it's gorgeous. And yeah, this area is protected. You're not allowed to have your dogs. Frankly, if you bring your dog to the beach, please have it on a leash. The birds are protected. The dogs will just create complete havoc. Never mind mess up the nests and everything. So it's nice we have a lot of wildlife refuge places on the beach to protect the birds. Here is another sunray Venus clam. That's much cleaner. It's just a clam, but I think it's just lovely. Sunray Venus clam. All right, we got some skimmers coming. I'm backing up because they're very shy and they will not skim if you're standing too close to the beach. So I always try to film it. I've kind of gotten it a couple times. One of them is going to skim. I think it's a juvenile. That one right there. Yeah, I bet you that's the parents teaching the juvenile, and that's why it was like, oh, there's a person, it's okay, but I rarely see them skim in front of me. Well, there's a live lightning whelk. Looks like it's hanging out with a live sand dollar. Cool, I'm just going to leave that critter alone. Gonna see what else might be washing around. Oh, here's a spiny jewel box. Looks more like a rhino or a unicorn shell, but all of those other little lumps would have been spinier at some point, but after it hangs out at the beach for a while, it just kind of gets worn down. Rose petal talon. I'm at Fort Myers Beach and it took me 14 minutes to find a rose petal talon. So yes, things have definitely changed here. It's okay. I'm still finding some things, but it's definitely different. Yep, the nutmegs are here. That is so weird. It is what it is. I mean, it's not like it was ever hard to find nutmegs here, but since they did the dredging, they've clearly covered up a lot of stuff and they found like a nest, a nest of nutmegs. So it's been nutmeg heaven down here. Another lettered olive. Okay. I do like the twisty inside of the nutmegs. Those are kind of fun. And I've only seen one live nutmeg ever. All right, here's another giant Atlantic cockle. So that dark color usually translates to the interior. Look at that. Oh, that gorgeous, like cranberry color. Oh, that is so pretty. So that's a lovely beach bowl, but it's really a giant Atlantic cockle. Whoa, that's huge. So that's another nutmeg. They get about 1.7 inches big. That is a big nutmeg. It's not in great shape, but just the size kind of impressing me. All right, another nutmeg. Now, if the tide were higher at this point, I really wouldn't be able to see anything. But because the tide is low enough, I'm able to at least kind of discern. Look how twisty this one is. So it's not broken, it's just a little twisty. So that's a twisty nutmeg. So yeah, if it was, I don't know, 6 inches, maybe a foot higher, no way. I couldn't do this kind of shelling. I just wouldn't be able to see. More nutmegs. Okay. Well, clearly that's something that happened to the to the beach. So this is a long-wristed hermit crab, and I will admit when I picked it up, I was but I did manage to hold on to it. Now you will see it kind of trying to like snip at me, and I don't feel a thing. The poor thing, yeah, he's just not strong enough to take on a human thumb apparently, so kind of gives up and maybe just starts grooming itself. So the long-wristed hermit crab will kind of sneak its little hand behind other shells' operculums and snip it off and go to town and kind of get in there and gobble it up. So they're carnivores. Gotta be careful for them. They're tricky, those long-wristed hermit crabs. So kind of trying to discern. I see an olive. Okay, that is a banded tulip. That is also a long-wristed hermit crab. They have asymmetrical front claws, so extremely easy to identify them. A crown conch. Is this a premonition of next week? Well, it just might be. So yeah, I do love the crown conchs. Sometimes you can find more. Obviously, this, I will let you know. Spoiler alert, that's the only one we're going to find today. Whoa. Gorgeous. Another one. Nope, not the same shot. Another beautiful giant Atlantic cockle. Now the interiors, they're not always that pretty, so those are quite lovely. There's that twisty inside I like. Another nutmeg. All right, that's bananas. So I can't even, can you imagine just the sheer volume of nutmegs that was here? Because I've already picked up my share and I'm going to pick up a few today. And in the last 2 months, I have to imagine that other people have shelled here. Wow. Okay, now we're talking. Alphabet cone. Cool. I'm actually really surprised. That's awesome. I mean, it's a little chewed up on the aperture, but that's a great find. Yeah, I can smooth that out. Awesome. Alphabet cone. Empty. Yes, empty. So we have another. Oh, look at this one. So this is a lightning whelk, and it did a really great repair job. Look at that. So the shell broke, and the animal was able to just kind of get back to business, and it rebuilt its shell. You can clearly see that. And you think about the resilience of some of these critters. That's just incredible. See, it's a lightning whelk, but what a story. Really, really cool seashell. All right, that's a fighting conch. That age is like my favorite. It's kind of like like a juvenile, and it only has that like top row of points kind of sticking out. Oh, just pretty. All right, that's Lover's Key over there. That's where we're going next week. And I think I'll try my luck. Gonna turn around and see if there's anything that the lower tide is gonna help me find. So it's almost as low as it's gonna get. Still about 89 degrees. Typical summer day. It's not so bad. If you're near the water, it's really not so bad. Another rose petal talon. Okay. A little bit muddy of a version, but that is okay. We'll clean up just fine. All right. What? At least there's something here. I mean, it's clearly, quote unquote, slower than I would hope, but it is summer after all. Now, I'm surprised that this is alive. I don't know that I really see many live critters with their shells kind of green like this. And wait, oh, it's coming out? Now that's weird. The lightning whelks don't normally do that. The lightning whelks are usually, once they're in, they're in. They don't come out and say hi. The crown conchs will, but never really had a lightning whelk do that. Ooh, okay. Kind of moving around. All right, that brown little thing, that's its operculum. Now that's the front of the shell. I'm going to see, what I'd like to see is its little head. So that's what I'm kind of hoping now. I try and I try. They're just gooey little squishy critters, and it's really hard to kind of discern body parts. So when I get an opportunity like this, like I said, the lightning whelks usually just tuck themselves up into the shell, and then that's it. They don't normally come out. Well, this one's just kind of different. It does have a little bit of algae on it, which is very different, and it's very friendly. Yeah, I can't see a head. All right. Well, I'm going to put my slimy little friend back into the water. There you go, buddy. You go on with your little snail day. Oh, wait, there's a lump down the beach. Yeah, we should probably check it out, right? All right, let's go see what that lump is. I suspect it's a shell. Oh, yeah, look at that. Big old lightning whelk. Yeah, that's been here a minute. I wonder what it looked like when it was, when it was first vacated. But obviously it's been here long. I bet a lot of people have kind of passed that over. Maybe somebody eventually will snag it and find something to do with it. But it's not going to be me today. However, I will remove this garbage. That will come with me. And so will you, Rose Petal Talent. Isn't that pretty? I think it's because it's pink. It's a little bit unusual. From a color standpoint, beautiful. And with thoughts of other seashells dancing through my head, I'm going to be quiet and allow you to have some beach time. Okay, calico clam. That's another fancy clam. We're very lucky we have two. Not just one, but two. The Sunray Venus and the calico. Just a clam, but they sure do make a pretty shell. A turkey wing. You can also call that a zigzag arc, and you would not be wrong. I have been finding really good ones lately. Been having some good luck with those zigzag arcs. Works for me. The broad-ribbed cardita. That's a nice hardy shell. They got some oomph to them, those broad-ribbed carditas. Lovely little seashell. Oh, that's awful muddy. What do we got? Another Sinister Fulgur Sinistrum? Yes, we do. Nice. Nice size lightning whelk. Lots of nice color. Beautiful. Another lightning whelk. Very nice. Oh, and that giant Atlantic cockle. Oh, that one's pretty too. Now, I don't know how long you've been watching, but I don't know if you remember. Here on Fort Myers Beach, like I said, this is my favorite beach. I actually found an albino giant Atlantic cockle. It knocked my socks off. So yes, this was back in June 2023. So this is an albino. I did leave it with the periostracum on it. So the reason it's not all white on the inside and outside is because on the outside it does have some of that periostracum, but I didn't want to bleach it. I just left it as is. So I still do have this. This is one of my favorite albino or just maybe one of my favorite shells. I just think it's so unusual and so cool. The only one I've ever found, and I happened to find it hinged. So that's just one of the reasons I really love this beach. It just surprises me all the time. All right, back to the common nutmeg. Yeah, as a matter of fact, yep, there will be they do call it just a common nutmeg, but they're still lovely. Thanks for showing up, nutmeg. I appreciate it. All right, this is always my favorite game. What's in the swash? Oh, another lightning whelk? You're okay. What else is here? All right, kind of fighting conch. You're fine. You're okay. Another turkey wing. Right on. Awesome. Yep, that's terrific. And I guess because I've been shelling for a couple of years at this point, so the shells that aren't in really great condition, they don't excite me as much, I do have to admit. Now, I saw this shell kind of moving around. Okay, so there's a little crab in there. It's not a hermit crab, so that crab doesn't have to have the shell. However, finders keepers. So it's hiding, and you go ahead. You keep on hiding, little crab. I'm going to leave you alone in your fighting conch. And I'll keep moving along, see if I can find something empty. So the beach has definitely changed. A little bit slower, but it is slower in the summer anyway. So it's kind of hard to tell if this is just like normal slow or just post-dredging slow. Here is a live coquina. I just love the color of their shells. And they were here. I tried hard to try to videotape them, and every time I kind of thought I might be getting them, a wave came and moved them around. So like I said, they're here. I just was not able, at least today, I was not able to really record them. But I was thinking to myself, it's really good that they are here because it will attract the animals to come and eat them. They're a very important food source. So hopefully it's just the cycle is just kind of doing its thing. There's some Florida prickly cockles. Can't resist a good Florida prickly cockle. I just love the interior color of those. And of course, anything black, because it's kind of unusual. So this was buried. This is a calico scallop. And they do not come black naturally. I'm trying to think of, off the top of my head, if any of the shells come black naturally down here, and I don't think they do. So this, I guess, was a typical summer shelling day here in Fort Myers. Perhaps it was just a little bit slower, or maybe not as many specimens showed up. But I'm going to give it a couple months. I will definitely be back. Now, I did forget to add this 0.4 ounces of garbage to this 3 ounces of garbage, so I'll do it here. So today I've removed 3.4 ounces of garbage, but in total I've managed to remove a little over 78 pounds of garbage. Now, this is from almost exactly a year ago at Fort Myers Beach. And this is what I found today. Still super grateful, but it does feel a little slower. So there were rose petal talons, some of those lightning whelks. There was a buttercup luzine, some sand dollars, the giant Atlantic cockles, some Florida prickly cockles, some nacre. There was a top snail, a spiny jewel box, an apple murex, some fighting conchs, a worm snail or two, some turkey wings, calico clams, sunray Venus clams, all those nutmegs. Thank you for showing up. There was that black calico scallop, some coquinas, some slipper snails, augurs, that broad-rib cardita. There were a bunch of olives. And then this crown conch, the alphabet cone, that big nutmeg, and there was a white Atlantic simile, just kind of a honorable mention. So you know what? It could have been worse, especially since they laid down all that new sand. So I am still grateful that the beach is at least giving me some souvenirs when I go down there. And I'm also very grateful that I have the support from you and my Patreons. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so very much for choosing to monetarily support me. And I have done some special dive only videos over on Patreon, and I may continue that. I don't have any new dive content quite yet, although I do plan on going megalodon diving. So once that actually happens, I'll kind of make a decision. Now, this is a little preview from next week. There is a shell, not one of those, but there is a shell that literally left me speechless. So Lover's Key was great. Now, until then, I hope you have yourself a great week, and I hope to see you again next Sunday.